Today's event, like most we've facilitated this year, would not be possible without the creativity and passion of a whole bunch of people. So I wanted to start today by thanking the folks who have contributed to and supported the One Book program this year. So to faculty and staff who integrated the Years of Zero into their course, into their work, to students who read, to the faculty and staff who participated in the selection committee to nominate and choose Seng Ty's memoir, to Kevin Weary for all of this. For the mic fixes, thank you. To Dean Catalozzi, who oversees the program, to Dean Escalera and the Center for Equity and Cultural Wealth, to Dr. Chandler, to Lauren McGuire, to the Anna Peasy team, and specifically to Maria Puente and Aurora Bautista. I cannot express the kind of work that they put into to this year's program, so please give them a big round of applause. For the last several years, One Book has hosted creative writing contests to highlight student work and talent inspired by that year's text selection. This year, inspired by the Years of Zero, students submitted work about home, loss, longing, and hope. This year we have 2 winners for our One Book contest, one in poetry and one in prose. Both will be featured in the upcoming spring edition of Bunker Hill's literary magazine, Tell, overseen by Professor Allison Rook and her students in her Journalism 2 course. So please look for that to come out. And I'm really pleased to announce this year's winners. So for poetry, and I'm going to ask y'all to even join me up here so we can give you a proper round of applause. For poetry, Noelle Kairan, for her poem, Cambodia, My Beloved Land. Congratulations. And for prose, Al-Sadiq Ahmed, for his writing Surviving the Darfur Genocide. So shy, Al-Sadiq. Yeah, grab a photo.
Okay.
Sure. Please give them one more round of applause. And you are welcome to have a seat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. And now we'll begin our program. Thank you so much for this beautiful performance. The Angkor Dance Troupe, founded in 1986, is a group of Cambodian refugees with a passion for Khmer performing arts, who came together in Lowell, Massachusetts with the sole purpose to revive a culture almost lost through preservation, education, and innovation of Cambodian performing arts. The performances we've seen today, Bun Swang and Blessing Dance. The Bun Swang asks for rain, peace, prosperity for Cambodia during war and famine, and the choreography is one of the oldest known in Khmer classical repertoire. The Blessing Dance was originally performed in Cambodia to rid the royal palace of bad spirits and to bless the kingdom. Today, the Blessing Dance is performed at the beginning of inaugural events and ceremonies and special occasions, like today, to bless the event and to welcome honored guests. During the performance, as you saw, the dancers move forward to sprinkle flower petals toward all to bring them peace, prosperity, and good health. Give them one more round of applause, please.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at isang taus-pusong pasasalamat para sa inyong pagdalo ngayong araw na ito. Ang aking mga kapwang guro, mga administrador at profesional na kawani, mga miyembro ng ating komunidad, lalo na po sa ating mga kaibigan na mga Kamay Amerikano, Asyanong Amerikano, at higit sa lahat, ang ating mga pinakamamahal na mag-aaral at estudyante. Good afternoon to all of you, and a heartfelt thank you for your presence today, my fellow faculty, administrators, and professional staff, members of our local community, especially our friends from the Khmer American and Asian American communities, and most of all, to all our beloved students, including my own. On behalf of the Center for Equity and Cultural Wealth that Dean Leah Escalera oversees, and as project director of the Anna Pizzi Grant, it is my great honor and privilege to give a few remarks about two great artists in our midst. As you may already know from the brief bios in your copy of today's program, both Dr. Robin Chandler Smith, our BHCC inaugural residence in artist this year, and Professor Seng Ty, author of our one-book selection, The Years of Zero, have an impressive list of credentials and achievements that any scholar would envy. What I would like to share, though, is what has consistently struck a deep chord in me about the way they have carried themselves ever since I listened and witnessed them in conversation. Two people with a deep sense of humility, but also great tenacity, united by a shared value for spirituality and a genuine desire to use their art as an avenue for building bridges of understanding, for amplifying our voices and experiences as people of color who are often overtly or covertly dismissed into the margins. As one who is also very sensitive to process in every gesture, I have also felt edified by the concrete ways they have honored, time and again, everyone's cultural wealth, giving honor to women in art in an art exhibit on revolutionary moments, sharing experiences about a young Black boy's gift at speaking proficiently in at least 8 languages, holding fast to one's love for a mother and the belief in one's deeper, authentic cultural values, not just to survive, but to thrive. It is so important to recognize treasures when they visit us, especially in a society that is full of distractions and unproductive noise. So today, I hope we take that opportunity to stop, to listen actively, deeply and meditatively to these true treasures in our midst. They truly bring to us a different kind of power that we all need to cultivate, especially at this time, in order to present a counterculture. The power to listen, the power to share, the power to practice peace and equity in our lives daily, and ultimately, the power to build communities that thrive in genuine collaboration and peace.
I'd like to thank Maria for her sweet words. It's wonderful to be a treasure, or to be called that anyway. And I'd like to also thank the Angkor dancers for showing us the capacity of the human body to communicate aesthetically and artistically and spiritually in such a beautiful way. Dancers are storytellers, and so it's wonderful to see how various cultures around the world express themselves through their bodies in artistic ways. Next, I'd like to acknowledge someone who's here in the front with us, which is the photograph of Seng's brother, who lost his life at the hands of the Khmer Rouge. So if we could have just a few minutes of silence for his spirit, which I'm sure is here today, just a few moments. Thank you. Someone once said that each new ethnic group that comes to America spiritualizes it. And I love that expression because it is not so much the cultural differences and traditions that a culture brings with it that we need so desperately here in the United States, but the spirituality of those cultures, the spirituality of those tribal groups, the spirituality of those ethnic traditions. We need those desperately so that at some point in human history, the United States can lead all nations spiritually in the same way that we may lead all nations materially. So I want to focus again, as we did in the interview, and it's going to be available to you on the screen, I think, later on, a link that you can go to. I think it's about 40 minutes to an hour-long interview. We're going to try to replicate some bits of that, but we're also going to spend a lot of time taking questions and comments from you in the audience, because we want this to be a kind of fun, very personal interaction, because we already did the interview, so we did the hard work. So you're going to do the work now. But again, I want to focus on the word that I introduced in the video, the spiritual resilience, because it's extraordinary that Seng and many others survive this kind of experience. But it's spiritual resilience that keeps us going, because it's not an experience that you ever forget. And it constantly defines some aspect of your reality. But it's the spiritual resilience that allows you to make something new of yourself once you begin to transcend it. So I want to just give the mic over to Seng for a few minutes to say whatever he wants to say.
មុនដំបូងខ្ញុំសូមថ្លែងអំណរអគុណទៅដល់សាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Bunker Hill ហើយនឹងនិស្សិតហើយជាបុគ្គលិកនៅក្នុងសាកលវិទ្យាល័យនេះដែលបានអញ្ជើញខ្ញុំមកក្នុងសង្ឃរដ្ឋានថ្ងៃនេះអំពីការសរសេររបស់ខ្ញុំសៀវភៅឈ្មោះ The Years of Zero នៅក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះដែរខ្ញុំមានតំណែងថ្លែងអរគុណជាច្រើនបានដែលអញ្ជើញខ្ញុំមកក្នុងថ្ងៃនេះសូមអរគុណ Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you so much for the staff of the Bunker Hills and the student and the community at large having me here today. And it's very special for me to here to talk to you and I'm really it's a great honor, and I would be happy to answer any question about the book that you read. And I know that this book is not easy to take it in, but there's something that I want to do to share this piece of Cambodian history that not many people knew what happened to the Cambodians genocide between 1975 to 1979. And I believe that Cambodian genocide, the third largest genocide in the world history, and not many people knew what's happening during that period of time. And close to 2 million people died during that genocide. So thank you very much, Dr. Rob. Yeah.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Are there any folks who would like to make a remark or ask a question? Yes, sir. Project.
I'd like to make a remark. Like a few months before this, I actually read a book on a Holocaust survivor, and I felt that like both of your experiences had so many parallels, like losing everything you had and just surviving through, in some ways, just luck. Like I just found so many parallels, and I just found the whole story amazing. It was like reading the first story all over again.
Yes.
And I know that, first of all, writing this book is not an easy. While I was writing this book, it's just so many memories and so many nightmares. And but it is something that I thought this is a very, very important. The only that people here in the United States that learn about the genocide was from, I believe, it's a movie called Killing Fields in 1984. Mm-hmm. And that's the only people that knew what's happening. And I haven't told my story through Time Magazine and Phil Donahue show back in the early 80s and some other major newspaper. But there's something that is still missing for me that's something that I want to share in details. So that's why I determined to write this story, and so that I can pass it on to my children and some other people who knew a little what's happening to those history.
One of the things that I'd like to sort of add in here, and I'm speaking out of my professorial experience. I taught for 30 years, so I normally lecture, and I try not to do that now that I'm retired, but I end up doing it anyway. But I think it's important to understand the word genocide, that it's not something that happens overnight. Those of you who are familiar with the writer Gordon Allport, he wrote a book in the middle of the 20th century called The Nature of Prejudice. And he talked about the 5 stages that humanity, that societies and groups go through before they even get to ethnic cleansing or annihilating a group. And the first one is called anti-locution. It's a very old-fashioned word. It simply means saying bad things about other people, targeting people ethnically. That it starts with that. With every single ethnic and cultural group on this planet, it has started with that. It then moves to avoidance. We avoid those people. We segregate ourselves from them. Some of us self-segregate because we know we're going to be targeted. The third stage is discrimination. The fourth stage is physical attack, and the last stage is genocide. And so he very astutely thought through the fact that these are very human behaviors. These aren't just the bad people or the enemy. These are very much human behaviors that we all participate in, and if we don't combat them, we are bystanders to these events as they unfold. So it's important, I think, just to put into context the fact that your remark raises the issue that there have been so many genocides, probably more the rule rather than the exception. Not that we want to play the oppression Olympics, because I'm sure that everybody has had an experience directly or indirectly through that, particularly at an institution where the student body is mostly students of color. But we do want to acknowledge the fact that we have a predisposition for the behaviors that lead up to genocide, and that we all have to be vigilant and watchful about that. Another question. Yes, sir.
I had a question about your process. Personally, I feel like that takes a lot of courage and maturity to not want to because people would argue that you're within your right to want revenge. And so I was just wondering if you could talk about your process of was it instant that you changed your mind, or was it something that took a long time for you to forget and not want?
Okay, did you hear that?
I didn't hear the last part.
Okay, but he's asking a question about the courage and maturity it took to avoid taking revenge in your situation. And he wants to understand the process that you went through. Did you immediately feel that, or did it evolve over time?
It took me quite some time to do that. And I know when I first came to the United States, I mean, I'm not saying just only me, but many of my friends, orphans, friends that came here, we have a lot of anger. You witness so many violence. Every day you're facing violence and tortures, and there's no love, there's no caring back in those during that time. So when you arrive in the United States and you still have that, and but I am so fortunate that I came to live with the American family who gave me a lot of support, a lot of healing, a lot of things, even have me to do it's called the counseling group. It's all many things. So that's helped me the process of, and plus eventually my mother who taught me in the early age that using violence and anger is not resolve of what the revenge meant for her. So that's something it's helped me to process that. And I remember I met one of my friends, Chuan. He's one of the main speakers, and he reward human rights and reward human rights. So, and he came as the orphanage. I didn't know what happened, his past history, but when we came to Massachusetts, and we learned that he's one of the Khmer Rouge, and he's one of the person who took other people's life. And at that moment, I was so shocked, but instead of I get so upset and angry with him, I want to get him even closer. And since then, we have become even better friends. And we even share, and I even learned what's happening. And we have a lot of things in common during that time. So I learned to accept him, and I learned to forgive him, and I learned not to angry at him. And that's how I try to keep myself in a positive way. And right now, he's been doing a lot of wonderful work in Cambodia, and I am here being an educator here in the Lowell public schools. So we came from we're doing many good things, positive things for our community here and as well in Cambodia. So that's why writing this memoir is helped me a lot for to learn how to forgive and forget what happened, put all my past behind.
I think it's a great question because, one of the stages in what you call the process of learning how to not be vengeful or angry is that we never destroy the anger or the vengeance. We supplement it. We control it. We keep it under thumbs so that we are in control of those kinds of feelings. And the other thing is that not only is this a learning process, but to write a book is actually to put down the words that document exactly what happened to you, period, dot, and comma. And so it's kind of an expiation. You push it out of yourself, you take it out of yourself, you let it come out onto the paper so you can move past it to the next stage, whatever it is.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's been written, and you can, I think, convince at least your soul that you have engaged the first step of acknowledging the fact that something really bad happened to you. And this is, a part of counseling, it's part of healing, it's a part of being in therapy, is getting out that very thing that is your story. And those stories are so important.
And I think it's very important for me to release in somehow that I have done something to for writing this memoir, to pass it on to my children, to others, people that who knew a little about what's happening, and some people that might need to read this story and to inspire themselves to do good on their own. So it's something that you have it in here so many years, and then you want to release it. And I know that many of my friends, my communities, and they did not want to talk about that because it. They say that, well, the wound has been healed. Why you want to open the wound again? It's hard to talk about that. So, but I want to continue to. I know it's not an easy subject to share, to tell, but I feel that the day that my mother passed away, is it never how long, never how old are you. This is a story that you need to let it out. And now that I'm 50, and I look back to those 40 years ago history, and now that I see what is going on in the world today, I said, wait, this is not something new to me. It just happened. This is what happened in Cambodia 40 years ago. It's similar what's happening around the world today with the ISIS, with their terrorism. Because the ideology of the Khmer Rouge was try provoke the poor, hate the rich, the uneducated, to hate the educated people. That's why the Khmer Rouge was successful in those 4 years to eliminate all the international communities to come in, so that they did all the killing field. And imagine, even the educated Cambodians when left the country before the war to study in France or in the United States, the Khmer Rouge be able to find the tactics to convince those people to return to Cambodia. And I know that that time I was about 14 years old, younger than that. I thought if I lost all my family, I was hope that I was be able to reunite my brother right here. That who left, the Khmer Rouge might not know what's happening. 4 years later, after the Khmer Rouge gone, the Vietnamese took over. When I went to that place, it's called The Secret of the Khmer Rouge Killing. And here we go. As soon as I saw his photograph in one of the top Khmer Rouge secret torture, it's so empty. I have nothing, like my feeling, everything was just, it's just all empty. But the one thing that I want to do is, I said, even those that I have nothing left in this world, I continue to search to find a better future, a better education. And that inspired from my mother that education is the most important than anything else. The Khmer Rouge can steal from you, can steal money, can steal gold, can steal anything from you, but the Khmer Rouge, no one can steal it from your knowledge. And that inspired me until today. Even those that I came from to United States in the early 80s with a background of 2 or 3 years of schooling in Cambodia and start 8th grade. I was so struggled, but the mind, determination, the hard work that I had to succeed in this and this education, because now that I have the opportunity to do this, so I have to complete.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, sir.
One generally associates the term genocide with one racial group against another. In this case, it is an exaggerated form of the cultural revolution in China. It is the same racial group against the same race people, but it's a class struggle. I was wondering if you can comment on why that took place in Cambodia. It isn't, yes, it is true that Cambodia and Vietnam have problems and all those things, but it is essentially Cambodians against Cambodians. Can you comment on that? How you felt it would seem to me to be more of a pain for you because it is the same people against you.
I believe that I want to go back to the history during the Vietnam War. I mean, in 1968, that's the year I was born, and that was the year of bombing Cambodia, and the U.S. was secretly bombed Cambodia to destroy Viet Cong, but it ended up killing the civilian. And that time, the rise of the Khmer Rouge, which is led by Pol Pot, and Pol Pot, who went to study in France back in 1950, and he did not do well in France, so he ended up to study in China, which is learn all the Chinese communist ideology. So he used that to bring it to Cambodia. And when he see that the United States bombed in Cambodia in 1968, he took that opportunity to fuel all the peasants, all the people in the village. He said, look, come and join me. Because of that, the Western are destroying your life, and you need to come and join me, and let's fight against the Americans. Yeah. And so in 1975, when the U.S. pulled out from Vietnam and from Cambodia, Pol Pot took that opportunity to take over the entire country. So that's how he's eliminate all the he's stopped the other funds all the funds into Cambodia, so that he can do all the killing. So in order to succeed their their communists, so that they eliminate all the educated people and whoever they suspicious, so they kill all those people, and everyone had to be equally eat the same food, work in the same field. It's like a Mao the ideology. So whoever was uprising against them, the Khmer Rouge kill all of them.
So I'd like to take two ideas clearly that I'm sure everybody's picked up here. The one where Seng mentions that his mother is reminding him that they can take anything from you except your education. Number two, this idea of a class struggle is a perfect way to divide and conquer people. And one of the things that seems to have happened consistently around the world in every country over time is making education accessible to a very small segment of the population. Because the more people are uneducated, the greater you can control them.
Exactly, yeah.
So why are we not focusing on universal compulsory education for everyone? We have big problems with education in our country, whether it's the admission scandal in higher education that's going on right now, that's an insidious form of racism, whether or not it's the public school system in the United States that is underfunded and in some cases substandard for students of color, or whether it's the global problem we have with the undereducation or lack of education of girl children, and instead marrying them off at 8 or 13. We seem to have a facility for wanting to control people by not educating them, and it's always worked. So I think this is a perfect setting at a community college that's focused in mission on the education of people, to value the extraordinary aspect of that education that you're all getting or giving in this educational moment here at Bunker Hill College. It's so important that everybody in the world has an education at minimum through secondary school, at minimum. You cannot easily control people when their mind is educated and trained, and if half the world's population is women, and we keep those women oppressed by not educating them, it's like putting a gun to your head. What are the extraordinary ideas, the solutions to problems that girls and women have to give to us that we're not hearing about because we're not educating them? So one of the things that is so, I think, significant to Seng's book is that it's coming at us in a number of kinds of ways. It's a kind of anti-war book. It's a book about spiritual resilience. It's a book about the importance of education. When he has said in the book that the encounters that he had with peasants, they were all people who were uneducated. And these were young people with guns, young boys with AK-47s, who didn't have the chance to have an education that he did. And so that's the trigger. The trigger is ignorance. If we can continue to foster ignorance by not educating people, we can control them. And so that kind of political power is something that we as Americans and citizens need to think about very clearly, because it could very easily happen to us here. Another question? Yes, ma'am, back there.
Thank you.
The question I have is, I know you're working as a guidance counselor in Lowell.
Yes.
So there's the next generation, and I'm curious about your perspective on how this experience has impacted the young people who are being born here of parents who experience this awfulness.
It's not just me. I mean, I work as a guidance counselor. It's feel a reward when not just doing a paperwork and guide them to high school or work bit on their academic issues, but I was be able to go to classrooms and share this book, and even to my sixth graders, some of them are reading this memoir, and most of my eighth graders are reading this memoir. And I noticed that many of the Cambodians that born here, they were so surprised and they were thrilled to read this, that they didn't know nothing happening to their parents or grandparents. Because as I mentioned earlier, that many of the parents and grandparents, they don't want to share this story to their kids because it's too painful to share that. And I know that many of the Cambodians, elderly, who my generation or older generation, that somehow they have PTSD, and that's something that who have gone through war. Even me, I do have it, but the way how I cope it differently, and it was so. I have so many letters that from the student who read, and now that when they finish this memoir, they kind of connected with their parents and grandparents. They start to learn to asking questions, learn more history about their parents' birth country. So it's really, it feels a reward for me to at least I inspire these young people in a different way. And it's not just only the Cambodian children that I'm working with, but all students from a different home situation, and also all even the students that have a special need came to me that they find this book is really inspire them to do something good for their community, their parents, and appreciate their parents. Yeah.
I can see here in the audience we have a lot of generations.
Yes.
I mean, most of you are 18 to 25-year-olds, but we also have many other generations. And the significance of what Seng is saying about being able to communicate with your elders, being able to learn from them stuff, cool stuff and not too cool stuff, not writing them off because they're old-fashioned, or not writing them off because they don't want to talk about the past. I mean, something like art can always push through that. A book, a dance, a painting, a photograph can push past that lack of communication, that lack of connection. That's so important because young people, it's very important for you to share your vision of the future with the elders. And the elders, it's very important for you to share what you know with the young people, because those of us who are old know that things happen in 20-year cycles. And you learn things every 20 years about society, about humanity, about human relationships that we need to pass on so we can prevent books like this from being written in the future. It's so important. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just want to let you know that your book was the first book I ever read.
Oh, thank you.
Cover to cover in English. And I was very moved by your each words. And I was very impressed by your strong faith in this book. And I wonder how you kept your strong faith under such a sad and terrible condition.
I mean, again, I you know, it's feel a relief that I've been able to share this through writings, and also I do try to continue myself to try myself strong. Now when you're getting older, it start to come back. It start like, sometimes I look at my brother picture, I said, why him? And why not me? And he's lived away from out of the country, and why he came back, and why I was so my life was, it's like you cannot see a daylight at all, like everything was so darkness around you, and I survived it. And that's what I want to continue to keep myself in a positive way, and even that my children, I'm teaching my children in a positive way, that, you know, I don't want to give up in anything that I do, or that's kept me going until today. Yeah.
I think that's so extraordinary, that feeling of how good fortune affects some of us and misfortune affects others. And we all ask that question. In one situation or another throughout our lives, you will find yourself, I promise you, asking that question, why me? Why not me? And it is truly a blessing. One of the things that the Angkor dancers performed earlier and today is this dance of blessing. And there are many, many cultural groups around the world who have in their cultural traditions this idea of blessing something before it begins. So you rein in and draw on and pull in the powers of the ancestral world, the powers of the spiritual world to empower you. And so that's so important. I'm not sure what our time is up. So I want to thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.